Well, as we celebrate the 250 years since the start of the American Revolution, we know some of the stories we've been taught over the centuries have been, I don't know, misunderstood.
Yeah, they've evolved. And for decades, the beloved poem Paul Revere's Ride was accepted as the real account of the events that happened the night before the Battle of Lexington and Concord. But there is some separation between the man and the myth.
Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. So begins the iconic tale about the night before the start of the American Revolution that, well, takes a little liberty with the truth.
What is it about this poem that really captured the American imagination?
Well, it's this amazing story. This man, Paul Revere, is out literally on a midnight ride moments before the Revolutionary War begins.
Brooke Barbier is an historian and author who also operates old tavern tours on the Freedom Trail. Boston history is her life.
Longfellow really felt history pretty evocatively with his writing, and he wanted people to feel it and to appreciate it.
On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. Longfellow was writing this poem in the midst of the Civil War, hoping to spark patriotism by recalling the heroes of the Revolution. So he used a little poetic license. There are three big inaccuracies in his famous work.
The first big misunderstanding, one if by land, two if by sea.
It's in the second stanza. He said to his friend, "If the British march by land or sea from the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the old church tower as a signal light." It wasn't a message for Revere, it was a message from Revere.
So the next issue is Paul Revere is such a romantic figure, but he did get caught by the British.
Longfellow says it was 2 by the village clock when he came to the bridge in Concord town.
So that isn't true.
Revere, in fact, never reached Lexington and Concord, as the poem says, because he was caught before he got there. And finally, he was not the lone rider.
So through the night rode Paul Revere, and so through the night went his cry of alarm. It wasn't just Paul Revere. There was also William Dawes, who was sent out at the same time that Paul Revere was. And Dawes made it to Lexington too. The two of them met up there.
He wrote the poem at what's now called Longfellow's Wayside Inn here in Sudbury, Massachusetts, and some of those details are in dispute as well. Let's go inside.
In that era, if you were a writer, you were world renowned. Yeah. And you know, it was the equivalent of being a rock star, as you say, to today, because everybody wanted to know, hey, where is this Wayside Inn? Who's writing this? And you know, Henry Longfellow was what everybody wanted. If you could read, that was special.
Steve Pickford is only the 11th innkeeper in the Wayside Inn's 300-year history. He says Longfellow didn't write here. He published his poems after staying at the inn in the early 1860s.
He spent the night here, and all the characters in his book, Tales of a Wayside Inn, he met a lot of them here, and then some were fictitious, some weren't.
Henry Ford, yes, the Henry Ford, owned the Wayside Inn from the 1920s to 40s when historic preservation of the Revolution was a priority for philanthropists. Paul Revere's Ride was memorized by school children and became ingrained in the American lexicon. Longfellow's image is treasured here, and so is one infamous antique.
This is the famous desk that's been here for a couple hundred years, and a lot of people tend to say that this was where he wrote the Tales of the Wayside Inn, but not really.
Unknown.
It's unknown. He was here. He might have sat at the desk when he was here and visited and maybe wrote a letter or something, but this wasn't where he actually wrote the poem.
What do you think about our evolving history when it comes to this poem?
The legacy is long for this poem, and it's even longer for the revolutionary spirit of Massachusetts. This state takes a lot of pride, justly so, in its revolutionary roots, and this poem helps evoke that. One person can and did make a difference.
And lives on in a nation's imagination forever.
So,
fascinating.
you know, it is interesting how facts and understanding evolve over time.
Yeah.
But I think the innkeeper, Steve Pickford, made the best point that the way people would immediately know the new lyrics to a Springsteen song, they knew the new Longfellow poem when it came out. And so that's why everybody memorized it. And our thanks to them for giving us a little walk through history.
Look, a little bit of artistic license in the name of the Union. That's
what poets do. Everybody was doing their job.
Oh my gosh, great stuff, Paula.